Hey guys, welcome back to part 3 of the Become a Pro at Pivot Tables course. Now here we're going to do a bunch of calculations and I'll show you that how do you do calculations in pivot tables, whether it's a built-in calculation that the pivot tables gives you by as a standard feature, or if you have to build the calculation in the pivot table yourself. So without any further ado, let's just flip over to the data. So this is the data that we have. I've just used a new data set for the calculation that we're going to do in this case. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit. So we have the date here and we have the sales representative who has made the sale. This is the date of the sale. Then we have the customer, who's the customer that we have sold the product to. For how much have we sold? That's the sale amount, the profit, and the region. So just a few values here, and what we want to do now is that we want to find out the salesman performance, right? So I'm just going to write that quickly down here. So salesman performance, right? And we would be happy to have a region-wise report for that. So region-wise report. Right. So I'm now going to quickly move over to this data, and I'm going to quickly create the pivot table. Also, I just forgot to let you know that I have also created this data set as a table, right? So what I did was, selected any cell and pressed the shortcut Control T for tables, T is in Tango, and this was converted into a table. And I also did name this table as sales data. Remember that you name the table in the design tab, right? So sales data is the name of my table. Now we're going to create a pivot table on that. So Alt NV shortcut, and then create it in a new worksheet. Press going to say OK. Now I'm going to rename the worksheet. I use the shortcut Alt HOR to rename the worksheet, and let's just name this as pivot 1, right? We had to do salesman performance region wise, so I'm just gonna take it off from here and then put it right here so that it's visible to me, and I'll use my favorite font, right? Okay, salesman performance region wise report, that's what we want. So salesman, where is it? Sales rep goes right here. We have all the sales rep here, right? And we want to see that how much have they sold, right? So I will drop the sales in the values. This is going to give me the sum of the sales, right? So salesman and this. Now I would like to have a region wise report for that, right? What I could do is I could just drop the region in the filter, right here, filter. What it is saying is that there is already data in the part 3 pivot table 1. Do you want to replace that? What it means to say is that I have already written some line of text here, and when it adds a filter here, it is going to replace that. So let's say yes, we want to replace that. That's not a problem. So filter comes in here and we have the report is ready. Now I can pick and choose whatever region I want to see. So let's say I want to see this, how the salesmen have been doing in the eastern region. So I can select east or south or west, tick here, select multiple items, and then I can pick up multiple items from here. So let's say 3 regions selected and press OK. This is going to give me the sales for the 3 regions, right? So but I want to do something else, right? What I want to do is that I would want to have a sheet for each region, right? So what I would do is I would create report filter pages. That is going to take all the criterias in the filter and create a separate pivot table for that, right? Let's just take a look at that. Let's just take a look. So flipping over to the Analyze tab, right? And you see this options here, pivot table name, options here. This is the pivot table options, but I'm not going to go in the options. I'm just going to click on the arrow, which is next to the options arrow, and I will say report, show report filter pages, right? So then it's going to take whatever is in the filter, and all the criteria will have 1 page each, right? So show report filter pages, click on this. Instead, in case you have multiple filters here, it's going to ask you that on which pages, on which filter do you want the report. So I wanted the report on region, and that's the only thing that we have. So region, okay, and you see that east, north, south, west, a sheet for each one of the regions. That is so awesome. Filtered down to south, right, and filtered down to north, right. So that's so awesome. This is how you can create multiple filtered reports for each of the region, right. Now let's say we want to have another problem that we would like to tackle is that we want to show that how these salespeople have been doing year on year. So as of now, this is the consolidated number of sales for all the years, but I'd like to kind of bifurcate that how is the sales performance going year on year, right? So what I could do is I could create something called as a slicer, right? Or a timeline. I'm just going to explain quickly how that is and how that works. And it looks super sexy, and you can also put it up in your reports, in your dashboards, and it would just grace the look of your dashboard. Let's just get to it. So I'm going to go to the data and just take off this one, no meaning, right? So get to my data, Alt NV to create the pivot table, and I want to create the pivot table in the new sheet, and I'm going to press OK. Rename, Alt HOR for renaming the worksheet, pivot to, right. Now the same thing, I would want to have the sales rep, and I would want to have the sales and how much are they selling. This is what they're selling, but I'd like to categorize this into the years and the months and whatnot. I'd like to have a time-based analysis, right? So what I would like to do is I would like to create a slicer, right? So I'm going to go in the Analyze tab, right? Slicer, you can think of slicer as a filter, but more fancy, more sexy. So Analyze tab, and you have two options: Insert Slicer, Insert Timeline. We're going to check both of them out, but let's just check the slicer first. So Insert Slicer. Let me repeat that. 2007 slicer not found. 2010 slicer, yes, slicer option is available. 2013 slice, you have another option called Insert Timeline. Alright, so Insert Slicer, clicking here. It says on what do you want to insert the slicer. So date, sales rep, customer, sales, profit, region, and I cannot find the year here. Why? Because I have not grouped the dates into years, just as we saw in part 2. So let's just do that first. So I'm going to take the date and drop it off to columns. So I have the dates right here, but these are single dates, and I do not want the single dates. Rather, I would want to have dates as quarters, months, and years, right? So we are creating three bifurcations here: quarters, months, and years. So right click on the date, group option. I would like to have months, quarters, and years, all three. Press OK, and we have all the three. Now I don't need it, I just want to have a slicer on them, so I'm just going to throw them out of my pivot table. I don't need it, right? So I'm going to go to, again, the Analyze tab, right? Insert Slicer. And here I have years, so I can insert a slicer on years. You see that? And press OK. And I have a slicer, a sexy looking slicer on the years. Now let's say I want to analyze that how has the sales performance been for all the employees in 2005. I can just pick 2005 from here, and just like that it will show me that what was the sales performance. Veronica actually did not do too well in that year. 2006, 2007, 2008. So it's so awesome, right? So that is your slicer. You can create multiple slicers. So I can actually also create a slicer on let's say the region, right? So region. So I can have two slicers, right? So I can now filter my report on 2008 and West, right? So this is only West data. So just something like a filter, but more sexy, right? And I'm just taking that off. Now just taking off this because I'm not concerned with this, and I'm now going to insert a timeline. Let's see what the timeline can do for us. I'm just going to take this off as well, right? So Analyze and insert a timeline. So I'm going to insert a timeline on the date. Press OK, and you have a timeline on the date. You see that? Sorry, I think increase it too much. So as of now, this is set to a monthly timeline. You see that? So I can actually customize the period that I would want to see. So I can actually pick it up. So from July of 2006 till the end of this period, what is my sales, right? So you can hold the shift key and you can select multiple months, right? Data, and I can have multiple timelines, so one on the quarter and one more timeline, so another one on months, right? So 3 timelines, and I can actually pick up whatever is happening, so right, howsoever I want to do it. So you can actually use the shift key to select multiple things, and you can have multiple timelines. So all I did was Control C, Control V to have another one, Control C, Control V to have another one, and I just changed the view. So first was years, then this is the quarters, and then this is the months. So it's going to show the months, the quarters, and the years here, right? So that was our timeline. Pretty awesome. We're going to see some amazing applications of filters and timelines when we actually do the case in live. So I'm just flipping back to Analyze tab and just inserting a slicer on the year. So that's where we were, right? Alright, now that we've seen these year slicers and the timelines, let's just go and take a look at some of the calculations that are there in the pivot tables, and you can take benefit of them. They're really awesome. So let's just pick up the same case and make a new pivot table. So I'm going to go to the Data tab, Data, work please. Okay, so Alt N, we enter, create a new pivot table in the new sheet, name this as pivot T3. Oh, what happened? 3. Okay, pivot 3. Okay, so I'm just going to have the sales rep down to the rows. That's what I want, and I'm going to have the sales down to the values, right? So now I'd like to do some analysis as to which salesperson ranks first, and more analysis on the sales. So what I'm going to do is, let's say for example, I would like to find out the running totals, that how did each salesperson contribute, and can we have a cumulative running total or not, something like this. So let's say for example, I will add the current sales of Anshika plus the previous sales of Abhay. Now we have a total of 1380, and I'm just going to drag it down. So this is the place where, sorry, I think I made a mistake. So this plus, so this plus the previous one, so that's the correct one. And then we actually, by the end of this calculation, we actually reach the total. And I'd like to see the running totals to be built inside the pivot table rather than me actually doing a formula for it. So let's just see how do we do that. So I'm going to copy, Control C. You can actually copy the entire pivot table and you can paste it once again. So copy and paste this pivot table. And now I would like to see, instead of having the sales, I'd like to see that how are my totals running. So right click on this value, and I'm going to go to Value Field Settings. This is like a one-stop shop for all the calculations that you would want to do in the pivot tables, right? So you would find all the calculations right here, right? As of now, this is a sum. Yes, I want a sum, but what I would want to have is not no calculation, but I would want to have like a running total, right? So I'm just going to flip over to running total, right? And running total by what? Running total by the sales rep, and click on OK, and it gives me the running totals by the sales rep, right? See that? The exact calculation that we did it here with the formula, it has given me that calculation inside the pivot table, and that is so awesome, right? And the next thing that I would like to do is let's just find out that who is the highest salesperson in all these 4 years, right? So let's just figure that out. Who's the highest salesperson? So let's just figure that out. So let's just sort this pivot table. So right click on sort and sort from largest to the smallest, right? Abhay is the highest sales guy in this year, and I'd like to find out that how much of each salesperson is differing from the top sales guy, right? So I'm going to go and copy this pivot table once again, the entire pivot table, Control C, and paste it once again right here. Sorry, oops, made a mistake. Control V. Okay, now that we have the pivot table, I would like to find out not the running totals, but I'd like to find out that how much each one of these sales guys is differing from Abhay, right? So I'm just going to go to Value Field Settings, which is the one-stop shop for pivot tables. And yes, I want the sum, but I would want to have the difference from the top sales guy, who's Abhay. We just found that out when we sorted the data, right? So difference from Abhay, and click on OK, and this is going to give you that how much of each of these sales guys is differing from the top sales guy, right? So who's the maximum? I think Veronica or Jaspreet, right? 200,000, something like that. So Jaspreet is actually lagging behind. Okay, now that we have figured out that how far are these salespeople from the top sales guy, can we do some percentage work? Can we figure out that what percent is this difference from the sales guy, top sales guy? Yes, we can. So I'm going to select Control C to copy, and then I will paste it here. Control V, right? And what I'd like to do is not the difference from the absolute difference, but I'd like to find the difference in percentages. So value field settings, once again, and I'd like to show the values as not as the difference from in absolute terms, but the difference in percentages. So from Abhay, yeah. So click on OK, and it gives me the percentages. And Jaspreet is 28.71% away from Abhay, right? And this guy is really close, Bruce. And we can also actually rank these salespeople, right? So what I'm going to do is in this pivot table, right, I'm going to add another field. So I will say that I would like to add the sales one more time here, right? And just inserting one more column here. I think they just got together. So I'm just going to insert one more column, and then I'm going to add the sales one more time in this. So we have two sales fields, but one of them I'd like to display as the actual sales amount, and the other one I'd like to display as a rank, that who has the top sales in the past 4 years. So I'm going to right click on this, and value field settings, and I'd like to show the values, as a rank. So rank from smallest to largest. Oh, I think I just did the opposite. So rank, value field settings, rank from largest to the smallest, right? Abhay is rank 1, Jaspreet's rank 12, and this is how the salesperson are standing. So pretty outstanding calculations out there. If you just go and kind of grab like a 5 minute or so with value field settings, you can actually do a bunch of calculations with value field settings. You can do a count, you can do an average, a min, a max, a product, and a whole lot of statistical standard deviations kind of stuff, right? You can also show the values, and you can show them as different things, right? So pretty awesome calculations out there. Now I am just going to cancel that, and let's just quickly name these things so that it makes more sense, right? So this is my sales amount, right? And then this is the ranking, and then we have, let me just turn this off. So what is this? This is running totals, right? And what is this? This is the difference from Abhay, A-B-H-A-Y, right? And this is the absolute difference, and this is the percentage difference from Abhay, right? And that's about it. So you can also actually take off the grand totals. So the design tab, grand totals off for rows and columns. The design tab, report layout, grand totals off for rows and columns. Similarly, you can do that. Design tab, grand totals off for rows and columns. Design tab, grand totals off for rows and columns, right? So we have that as well. Alright, so let's just get introduced to another problem that that we can actually address in pivot tables. Is when we were doing the value field settings, we were kind of doing the standard built-in calculations of pivot table. But is it possible to kind of add our own calculations inside pivot tables? Let's just go and take a look at the case, right? So in my data, what I have is the date of the sale. What I have is the date of the sale. What happened? Yeah, okay. What I have is the date of the sale, the sales rep, this customer, the sales, the profit, but I don't have the profitability, right? How much percentage profit am I making? So can I build that up, into my pivot table calculation. So let's see if we can do that. Alt NVT, NVT is for 2010. So since I keep shifting between Excel 10 and Excel 13, sometimes I do use Alt NVT, and that's a shortcut for Excel 2010. Alright, anyways, so that is my pivot table, and I will drop the years here in the rows. I will drop the quarters here. I will take off the grand totals off, and I will show report in the tabular form to have years and quarters mentioned here. Now I would like to show the profitability. Now the profitability is nothing but profit divided by the sales, which I do not have it here. So what I'm going to do is I am now going to calculate that calculation and build it up right in my pivot table. Let's see how do we do that. So I'm going to flip over to the Analyze tab. In the Analyze tab, I have the options of field, items, and sets. Just in case you're working on any of the previous versions on Excel, you would not have the Analyze tab, you would have the Options tab. In Options, you would have to find field, items, and sets and click on Calculated Field. I'm going to do my own calculated field, which is not present in my data. So Calculated Field is going to open up the calculated field, and the thing that I'm calculating is the profit percent. Profit percentage. And how do you do that? So you take the profit is right here, and you click on the insert field. The profit goes right up. Divide that by sales. So insert the field, sales goes right up, and this is what my calculation is, right? So note that in the calculated fields you cannot link the cells outside, although you can write the formulas, if formulas, any other kind of formula which does not require you to link the cells outside. That is going to work in this formula tab, but you cannot link the cells outside. I would like to repeat that again. Alright, so my thing is profit divided by sales, and I'm done, and I'd like to add that to my pivot table, profit percentage. As soon as I click on add, it comes right up here, right? I'll click on OK, and this is what I would like to see in my pivot tables. Oh, awesome. I have the profit right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this into a percentage. So instead of converting this into a percentage through the cells format, I would like to format the pivot table. So right click, and I'm going to go to value field settings, and I'd like to click on number format right here, number format, and I'd like to format that as a percentage with 1 decimal place, and click on OK. And just like that, I have the profitability percentages for the 4 quarters. There was no other way to do it. I mean, it could have been very hard to do it otherwise, but we could just add a calculated field in the pivot table, and we could just get to the profit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take everything together that we have learned from the first 3 parts, part 1, part 2, part 3, and we're actually going to create a pivot table report in part number 4. So stay tuned to this part 4. It's been a long way, I know that, but stay tuned to part 4. You're really going to enjoy that, and I will see you once again in part 4.